between my father and myself. And, he was always success driven. He always, he was a successful businessman and would travel different places, a good part of the time. And he would never talk about himself, but he was always very good at asking questions. And I feel, I never asked those questions of him, I guess, until the very end. But I would say most people throughout my career have considered me to be very guarded. I don't talk a lot about myself. I prefer not to. I think this is probably the first experience, and with these amazing group of women who with whom I co-authored this book, really helped me to be more open, to allow myself to be vulnerable. I don't think I allowed myself to be vulnerable before at all. And if anything, there was no job that I couldn't do. I've always been extremely confident. And, my dad told me I could do anything I wanted to do, and I believed it. And I've told my boys the same, and I believe that they can do the same. I think the real key is understanding who you are. So to make sure that you're doing it for you, not for somebody else. And I feel that I always identified more with my father than my mother until I had children of my own. I never thought about how things would work out in life. I didn't have, a plan, but it was important for me to meet my father's expectations. It was important for me to do well, to be recognized, because he would ask pretty much every night at dinner my success story for the day. So what's your success story for the day? And I'd have to come up with one. And even though it was a terrible day, or, I would have to come up with a success story for the day. And I think that was his way of trying to teach me positive thinking, to find positivity in everything. And I think that did help to make me a positive person. I am a positive person largely because of that. But it wasn't until we had the last year together, just Dad and I, to talk about a lot of things and understand each other better, that I realized how much he held in. And I think it's preferable to live your life not holding in, to be able to share. And I've enjoyed this sharing journey with the other 14 authors, and then with my family members as well. But I will say the conversation with my brothers wasn't easy, because I'm writing about things that are very personal. But I think most people would question that. But it was Dad who said, I'd like you to mention about my intelligence work in my obituary. He wanted me to actually be able to talk about it. And I still have difficulty talking about it. And you'll see in the story, I mention it, because I don't know how much he did. He was undercover. I know he had very specialized training. I read about that in his story. I know he worked for the Pentagon, but how much undercover work he did, I know he did do that work, and he did tell me that I can talk about it, but it's hard for me still to talk about it because it's something that you're never supposed to talk about. So even putting the word CIA, I didn't put it in the book because I can't assume that I know anything about what his true life experiences were in doing the work that he was doing. But I know that he did want me to share that. He was comfortable with me sharing that in a humble way. And that was the other message that he gave me, is to always be humble. And I think I've tried to work on that a little bit more. I take it as ego, because I think we all have egos, and I wanted to make sure when I left and retired from the hotel company that I was working for full time, it was to become a better person. It was to discover and grow personally, rather than to do a job or to do what other people expect. Or, if you put that energy that I put into career into personally developing myself, and when I say develop myself, that means getting rid of ego and adding compassion, and building that compassion and love in me as a person, and being able to communicate more effectively, listen to the messages that I'm being given. I think it's an exciting opportunity that I have at this point in my life, that I learned from Dad, but I can also be different to Dad, and he taught me that I can still be whoever I want to be, and that's exciting. And his message to me was definitely Dad when the TV came on by itself, because it was the BBC News. And he always watched news. He would read 5 newspapers and 5 magazines every day. He was very, very aware of everything that was going on in the world. So when the TV went on by itself, and it was the BBC News, and it was the 50-year anniversary of Sesame Street, the message was really clear. It is Dad. And Sesame Street, they were saying, was designed for parents to teach children the values and the important things in life. So that to me was also kind of a validation of he's okay, I'm okay, and we can still connect, and we're still learning. All of us are still learning.